Hey gads, it's your midsole man, Eddbud here. I've been running, racing and training in the Puma FAST-R NITRO ELITE 2. Quite the update on the V1 and all the changes are plus points for me. Here's how it's held up over 100 miles. Thanks for tuning in, people. Hit that subscribe button, but also give this video a thumbs up like and drop us a comment down below too to help with the algorithm. Dankeschön. 100 miles or 160 kilometers up on the Puma FAST-R NITRO ELITE 2. This is a shoe that Puma sent over to me for review, but they're not vetting my views before my valued viewers get to see them. Stats wise, a quick recap for you. I got about 273 grams here, that's 9.6 ounces. For my UK size 11, US 12. The soft foam here on the short age durometer scale registers around about 25. That's much lower than the average of 28. It does appear to be some sort of Puma based foam, judging by the actual return that you get when you squash that foam. Rubber on the outsole registers at around about 50 on the short age durometer scale, so it is a little bit on the softer side compared to some of the other stuff you get on some outsoles. Very wide in the forefoot, around about 12 centimeters at the widest point, only 8.5 though in the heel, so it doesn't make it one of those more narrow shoes back there. Midsole stack here in my pair is 43 in the heel and around about 35 up front in the forefoot. That makes for about an 8mm drop, and that's exactly what Puma has specified on their website. We'll start with the upper first. Upper wise, it's absolutely one of the best Puma have come up with so far. Very fitting, very conforming. It's a super thin mesh here. It's containing yet very breathable, and I found it to be very durable as well over 100 miles. I have found in my testing that the dual pull tabs here that you've got are pretty much mandatory. I don't think you could get away without them. The upper really hugs the foot, and you do need those to help shoehorn yourself in there. I've experienced no rubbing, heel slip, any discomfort at all. It really is one of the best fitting Puma shoes yet. Glove-like from my perspective, and certainly going to be deserving of a high score. It's very consistent and it doesn't really give or anything after the initial miles. I haven't found myself having to re-tighten the shoe over a few kilometers. The padding around the foot really does cradle the heel inside there, and I felt no lace pressure over the top of the foot whatsoever. Yeah, I've got a more elasticated mesh through the middle of the shoe here, and the upper itself does most of the heavy lifting when it comes to the lockdown. The lacing just provides the icing on top of the cake. There's no degradation to the upper at all at this point. I do love that external heel counter that they've used here. Quite an interesting innovation or development, I suppose. I've had absolutely no rubbing back there whatsoever, though I reckon you could probably eliminate this fin. I've caught myself a couple of times on that. Not entirely sure it's absolutely necessary. The internal design on this one's quite odd actually, and very different to other shoes. That tongue section is kind of attached to the actual sides of the midsole, so there's no real gusseting of anything. It is very much like a football boot in terms of construction. I also like the fact that they haven't got any big, hard sort of overlays that they're using there as some sort of structural feature. They have used power tape here and there just to improve those areas of high abrasion. I did read a review somewhere where they gave this a 1 out of 5 for the heel counter stiffness. I mean, this is really stiff here. They're chopping the shoes in half, measuring things that really you don't feel when you actually run in the shoe. Always feel a bit odd about that. The shoes they cut in half seem to be pristine as well, so how much have they actually run in the shoe? This feels like a pointless waste of time. 1 out of 5 for heel counter stiffness. Come on. These work really well with my UYN socks. I get a spot on fit with those. They really allow the toes to sort of spread out a little bit. Gives you a bit more propulsion as well. If I'm going to nitpick, you could lose a little bit of this heel tab here. Maybe try and minimize the upper slightly here and there, but there's very few things that I'd change about the upper of this shoe. I'm going to give the Puma FAST-R NITRO ELITE 2 a 2.9 out of 3 for the upper after 100 miles. Midsole, midsole, midsole now. First thing I want to say about the midsole of this one after 100 miles, certainly one of the softest super shoes that I've tested out. It's coming in way more squashy than some of the others that are out there on the market right now. Does remind me a little bit actually of the Fuel Cell TC from New Balance that they put out back in 2020. Really is quite soft here, though I would suggest that the Puma shoe is far more nuanced than that New Balance release. This one's less of a 10k blaster like its predecessor was, and I think it's now more geared up to be a half or full marathon shoe. I think the heel strikers amongst you will enjoy the bizarrely stable yet very cushioned rear section of the Nitro Elite here. It really does absorb the impact there, and the plate and geometry get you up onto that forefoot section of the midsole very quickly. It's a strange combination really of like faster cadence, but also being very forgiving and allowing you to expand out that stride length a little bit. It's just a more forgiving foot strike than the version 1. I would suggest people who are more stride-based runners like me will probably get a little bit more out of this shoe than those who just like increase their cadence to actually speed up. So it's a little bit like the Metaspeed Sky Paris. That one seems to suit my running style and is fantastic underfoot. It's very similar here. Certainly a pacey shoe, this one. It does feel like a midsole that urges you to go faster. Within my recent training for the half marathon distance, I've certainly put this shoe on a few times expecting to do a steady effort, and I haven't been able to do that. It's just too fun and exciting and exhilarating to run in. Did use this on a recent race for a 2-minute course PB, so that tells you all you need to know. Yes, the foam is compressive underfoot, but I think that's amplified also by the very thick 4.5mm insole that Puma have supplied here. The insole itself feels a little bit like it's made from the same Nitro Elite material that we've got in the midsole. That increases the squash again, yet pulls it away from being like a 5 or 10k shoe for me. I just want something a little bit more sort of responsive with a little bit more kind of rebound, I suppose, for that. Durability wise, there's absolutely no damage here. We haven't got any significant creasing on the foam. There is just a little bit of texture with these fins here, but there's no real creasing whatsoever, even in the heel. This does seem to be one of the least fragile of those super foams out there. Doesn't tear, rip or break down very quickly like some of the others. It certainly returns to form pretty quickly on your foot strike. At this point, with 100 miles or 160 kilometers on the midsole, just feels as good as it was out the box. It's fun, exciting, enjoyable. I wouldn't be put off by this decoupled midsole here. It really doesn't actually feel that odd on foot. I would suggest this is probably one of Puma's best shoes in terms of performance so far. Though I do feel perhaps for heavier runners you may bottom out the foam a little bit quicker. It's so soft and squashy here. Perhaps the original version could be better if you are carrying a little more weight. Could they have lowered the weight here? Perhaps use some type of slotted plate or something? I don't really feel the weight so much of an issue now. This is more of a half or full marathon shoe. Not a lot I would change. Again, in the midsole here, I'm going to give it a 2.9 out of 3 after 100 miles. Outsole now. Puma grip is always on point. This is a little bit softer than what we've seen before, but that makes it a little bit more sticky and rubbery. Doesn't seem to have had a negative impact in terms of its durability. Absolutely no wear up here in the forefoot area of the shoe, and only a tiny little bit of wear back here on the lateral side of the heel. I do think that they've chosen a more malleable rubber here because the foam is just so soft itself. I don't think that the two things would stick together that well if we had very firm rubber. I think if you did glue something on there that was a lot more rigid, it would liberate itself regardless of what type of glue you would use. The ridges and channels here in the forefoot do provide some really great traction on cornering. I have used this shoe in a variety of different weather conditions. I haven't babied it whatsoever, and I didn't get all that much debris getting caught up in here. Certainly nothing in the channel that's been cut out. I did hit a couple of rocks at one stage, but I haven't got any degradation or sort of damage to the carbon plate here. Are you in there, Han Solo? This heel section certainly will take the brunt of some of the impact, but it's held up really, really well in terms of the rubber. I've seen a few YouTubers unfairly attacking the durability of Puma shoes. In my opinion, they're amongst some of the best in terms of durability and longevity. That certainly can be said about the outsole on this one. You got to remember, these are race shoes at the end of the day, and if you are going to use them in training as well, and they hold up as well as this one has, and I think that tells you all you need to know. It's certainly a damn sight better than the Cloud Boom Echo 3 from On. I had some paint peeling and some damage in the rubber after about 50 miles. Does look a lot better than the Alpha Fly 3 as well. You have to baby that shoe a little bit and keep it clean. This one's just been hammered. It's been put through the ringer in terms of training and racing. It's held up really well on the outsole. I'll give this one a 2.8 out of 3 after 100 miles for the outsole. Talking value now on this one. Can't get away from it. This one is now about the same price as a Vaporfly 3 from Nike, though cheaper than some of the efforts from On and also that Alphafly 3. Got a brilliant fit, superb midsole, really fast response to the foam, great traction and only a little bit of wear on one section of the outsole. The shoe's certainly well put together out the box. The midsoles also showed some longevity. I think that's boosted a little bit by that awesome insole. No problems with the plate, even though it is quite exposed here. No dodgy glue marks. It's certainly a well put together option out of the box. Haven't got any weird upper misalignment or bits, you know, just disintegrating over time. I do wish it was a touch cheaper, perhaps a little bit closer to their Deviate Nitro Elite 2 when you've got a sub £200 price point. It does make it a little bit more of an attractive pickup, especially when you're trying to gain a bit of traction on some of the other manufacturers. At 230 quid, this one is no 5 or 10k shoe for me. Perhaps if you're buying a shoe for your marathon, then it might be worth checking out. Just feel it's now a little bit too soft for those faster, shorter efforts. So not quite the versatile option that a couple of the other super shoes are right now. I'm going to give this one a 2.7 out of 3 for value after 100 miles. So still a top score after 100 miles for this one. I've got 11.3 out of 12 for the Puma FAST-R NITRO ELITE 2. Did you pick this one up? Have you been running in it? Are you thinking of buying a pair? Let me know your thoughts on this one and the Puma offerings down in the comments. Musical interlude time. Finally got to listen to the whole of the new Lemon Twigs album, A Dream Is All I Know. There's an absolute winner of a track at the end of the album. It's called Rock On Over and Over. Certainly inspired by T-Rex, that's for sure. Simple lyrics, just a bit of a celebration really of rock and roll music. Grinding glam rocky style guitars. Some great guitar solos too, with a really nice fuzz effect. And love the nods to T-Rex and Buddy Holly and people like that. It's fantastic. Listen to the album twice all the way through on a long run and highly enjoyable. There's some nice subtle moments to keep you calm and then a few to really, you know, bring up the power. Going up a hill actually listening to this one, especially good. Definitely worth checking out. Love the Lemon Twigs. They're just on the right side of nostalgia, but bringing something new to that kind of 60s vibe. Go and check it out, people. It's just come out. The Lemon Twigs with A Dream Is All I Know. Thanks for tuning in, people. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Been fun running in that Puma shoe. There's loads of new Puma stuff coming out this year. Very excited to try them out. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Also, drop us a comment as well to help out with the algorithm. My name's Eddbud and I'll be seeing you.